You still have 10 fingers.
10 fingers. Thierry Dreyfus, it's great to see you. We have been dancing around each other for probably at least 35 years and always threatening to have a conversation about why you do what you do. And you wrote a manifesto recently, which has really provoked this conversation. And your manifesto is very much in the slipstream of the pandemic. Everybody looking at what they do and trying to find out why they do it. And I just wonder if you could distill for us your manifesto very, very briefly, and then we can start talking about what, I should also say that you have been responsible for some of the most incredible fashion shows of my decades in fashion. And more and more, I'm thinking about fashion shows and how that is the way I related to fashion. And the people who are responsible for those experiences, I'm really, really interested in. The people who made the magic happen, the unsung heroes, basically. And you are an unsung hero. So let's start talking about your manifesto.
Hi, Tim. Thank you to welcome, and thank you to Imran. To first say that I've decided, like something about 20 years ago, not to communicate at all about us and about the team and about me. And this is more a result of these 3 months of jail and 3 months of time getting very slow. And during that time, I wrote this manifesto, and very fast, the manifesto was explaining how fashion became an industry and how by an industry it became a very speed time making people don't even taking care of what they have, what they do, what they live, but just have to go further and further. Basically, when I began 83, 84, the words, like we said earlier, industry, like for fashion or content or didn't even exist. Product didn't even exist. It was human beings making clothing for human beings. And here you have something which is human beings. It was about seduction, about happiness. It was about being yourself. It was the revolution of being yourself. 80s, 90s, I'm who I am. Until AIDS arrived, I dress how I want to dress. That was very new. So basically, these clothes were not in true an industry. If they were in industry, they have to be marketing. There's marketing, there have to be test, no vision, test. I was referring to some of the shows when I had the honor to work with, like the Indian one in the tattoo from Jean-Paul Gaultier, or the one of Thierry at the Palais de Tokyo with Dinah Ross. During these shows, no one thought about product. It was just about the happiness to be here. Who was in the room also at that time? A part were the professional, what I call the aristocrat of fashion, but part of that were consumers, people who love the brand, really love the brand. So it means that in the manifesto, I was saying we have to go back to a responsibility of the industry, who became the industry, regarding the slavery. And how do we do that? By us not to buy this or that product and try to check where it comes from. And on the other side, also to have the consciousness of the happiness to be who you are. And so to buy not what some tell you to buy, but to buy what you want to buy. There was two parts of it. The third one, so it responsibility. The second one was about fashion shows. What we developed with Virgil Abloh in Off-White was to invite most consumers as possible, what we call the kids. And that way, the people who are making really the brand, the people who are in love with the brand can participate to this momentum, which is the revelation of a new collection. And I think that if something has to change on fashion shows, it's to whom these are given to. It has to be a generous element, human element. So this is why the microcosma with the couture, it's one thing. But ready to wear, it's something for us, for you, for me, for a cousin, friends. And this is what was also an evidence today and what we developed with him. The third point, very fast, was about the responsibility of understanding the doxa, understanding that some were telling us, i.e., fashion is fantastic, but there is slavery. So we can do something against that. People are saying, internet is amazing, it's super word respectful. Wrong. This consuming of gas is a double of the civil industry. So that was all these elements developed to say to people, please, what is missing is human relationships. What is missing is the specificity of each brand. What is missing is you involved in the fashion as a consumer to say, I love that one because it's for me, because I feel I want to see life and enjoy life that way. Is that a good summarize or not enough, Tim?
Well, I was just thinking, you mentioned the Jean-Paul Gaultier tattoo show, Tatuage, in 1994, which is one of my favorite fashion shows ever. Everything about that show was exactly why I was drawn to fashion as a person who wasn't a fashion person, but the incredible intelligence and creativity and the sort of fantasy and the way that it bridged time and space and
Culture.
and cultures. What do you think was so different about that time? That
Generosity.
Curiosity.
Generosity.
Oh, generosity.
The way, the empathy. The fact that Jean-Paul was doing what he wanted to do. He loved what he loved. He wanted to share it. It was not about, am I selling this? Am I, last season I've sold that and this time I'm going to do this? Or that brand have done this and I'm going to do something a bit similar. It's not about the consulting people. It's not about industry. I mean, you see Helmut. I had the chance with the team to work 17 years with Helmut, from the first to the last show. We lost only one. It was because he made it on internet the first time he arrived in New York. But Helmut, until he sold his company, he was doing what he wanted to do. Well, these jeans were selling well. I'm going to keep them, but next one will be maybe, different, as I want, as you feel. So what is this, Thierry? So it's a gaffer tape. I got these different colors. Oh, you got fluorescent? Yes, I got fluorescent. Can you give me some? Yeah, I'll give you some. And then on the show, you discover that he put it inside the pants, like the opposite of the black type. It was not this generosity. The Helmut show, you have 1,000 people outside, 700 people inside in a room who should have only 200. But the show goes on. And the people were so happy. Happiness shared. Again, consumers, human beings, not only consumers.
So what do you think fashion was at that point? I mean, Helmut Lang and Jean-Paul Gaultier are obviously incredibly. Gaultier could take us on the Trans-Siberian Railway, and Helmut Lang was more about the evolution of a core of ideas. Always thrilling, but so different from somebody like Gaultier. But I think about those days, and what really strikes me is how small it was. And you make that point in your manifesto that everything got big and everybody started doing shows, and then a certain kind of sameness into everything. And I think what your manifesto is really the point that it made for me is how fashion shows were really where the relationship between the designer and people was
It,
created.
it was, and it is. I mean, we had with the eyesight team the chance to almost choose with whom we are working and with whom we are collaborating. It's a relationship between a director, an art director, a designer, how I'll call it, and a human being with me or people in my team. And this relationship is how to interpret their vocabulary in something so specific, i.e., you cannot put any other brand inside an Acne show or any other brand inside a Off-White show or a Reka or a Coburg show. You cannot. I mean, look at all the shows in the world and you see, oh, which brand is that? Oh, I have to read it because this set, this slide, this rhythm of models, this choice of model, the styling even could be this, that, or that. So at that period of time already, this was an evidence. Today, due to the fast time, how many collections you have to do? You know what I mean? That time you don't have. You have 2 collection, 4 collection, or you make a capsule if you want. It was not even called a capsule. It was just, I had an idea, but I don't want to develop it. Just want to do that. Freedom of creation, vision, and generosity. Vision is exactly like the football ball against a concrete wall. The concrete wall is business and the vision. So sometime it goes through, but you cannot say it's going to go through. You can never say, you see, who would say that this tattoo collection from Jean-Paul or the one after, the Jewish collection from Jean-Paul, will sell? But who cares? Because people will buy. It means the logic of generosity brings a back and forth.
But then the extraordinary thing is you wouldn't be able to do those collections now. You just wouldn't. It's like, you know, when you look at Guy Bourdin's photography or Helmut Newton's photography, you couldn't take those pictures now. So the world has changed 180 degrees in a way that even fashion, which was always considered to be the refuge of misfits and eccentrics and, you know, people who couldn't exist within conventional society, they would find a home in fashion. You know, designers, models, stylists, hairdressers, whatever. Everybody was, you know, a particular kind of person. All of that shifted as well over the let's say Tatuage, the Gautier show was 1994. So we're looking at nearly 30 years ago. And at that time,
sorry, sir.
In that, well, we can go back 10 years earlier than that. I mean, talk about Patrick Kelly, the way
I can, yes, sorry.
Fashion. But the change, the business is different. The whole the internet changed so much. But I'm really curious about how somebody who has experienced what you've experienced stays committed and positive and creative when you're dealing with a whole lot of other things that you didn't have to deal with 30 years ago.
It was hard to wait for the end of your sentence because I don't agree. I don't agree with you.
Sorry, it's a team.
I don't think that the things have changed 180 degrees. I do think that during a period of time, maybe 2000, 2010, 15, there was a speed and there were the groups and there was, but then today it comes, even, let me say that for me, the woman at the head of Dior woman, now she go back to the artisan. And I see young designer like Joanna Sednik, or artisan. And they are coming understanding and really, really understanding about, even Virgil is really like looking for artisan. What is the handscraft? What is the specificity of this? And no more the industry, no more the speed on that way. So I think, you see, on photography, that's another story, because before I had the chance to see Mr. Avedon once taking photos, and because photography is writing with light. So the goal was to have a film. When you have a film and you have an Hasselblad, or if you have the Rolleiflex, your head is like this. when you have an actual phone camera, a numeric camera, your head is like that. It means you are like a weapon. There's a very different way of humility and concentration, i.e., when you're an artisan and you have one piece of marble, you have one piece of marble. You don't have two, you don't have three. It means when you take a photo on a film, the concentration at that moment, again, what I call generosity, the way you involve yourself in the moment. I would say, remember my so lovely and beloved friend, Asdin Alaya. Asdin, I saw him taking a piece of fabric and cutting it like this, and it was a biais. Why? He was an artisan. See what his hands were like that. I stayed nearby him, looking at him working, sewing, talking together. And he telling me, Thierry, you're an idiot. And I say, well, you're doing the same clothes. I said, no, this one was in cotton like this one is in crocodile. It's not the same. Asdin, it's the same shape. So it's not the same shape because it's not the same product. Artisan, the love of a work. And I see today in photography a coming back of film. And in fashion, a coming back of a real love. People who don't even really know how to draw, and but they know how to sketch maybe very fast, but they know what fabric is about. I never saw a drawing of Asdin, only by my Antonio, I think, but I never saw something from his hands, But I saw him working on a fabric or on a body. And this is fashion, and this human part of fashion that's developed on the shows. The show is before the windows, definitely before the campaign. We spoke about it once together, which was when we make a show, if you make it correctly, which means with the emotion that you can share to people, which is the most important, the poetry or the hardness, or then this is related in the campaign, this is relating in the windows. You use this creation to make business and not the opposite, which have been the fact. Business to try to make creation. So I don't think it's a past. I think it's a revival today because of fed up of having a Swedish brand T-shirt at €5 or €2 that everybody got. I don't want that.
Do you make
sense?
Do you make? We were going somewhere else there. Do you make a distinction between artist and artisan then?
Between artisan and
artist and artisan.
I have a very difficulty with the word, but just a personal difficulty with the word artist, because today artist became as doctor or businessman, or it's a business. It's a business. So I put the word artist on the side. I think that Cézanne, let's talk about my master, let's say, or Giacometti or Brancusi, they were more artisan. They have been called artists. But when you ask to Picasso, are you an artist? He said, no, I'm a painter. You know what I mean? So if you put the word artist on the side, which is more controversive, the only word is an artiste, which was what Duchamp was saying. I'm an anarchist artist. That would make sense. But artisan, Greco was an artisan. He was working on a frame or on a wall with paint. He was not conceptualizing something. He was not explaining something. Goldworthy, for me, is an artisan. You can call it an artist. Why not? Why not? But in the way I see it, he is an artisan, saying that he's taking incredible natural pieces in the nature and or stones or leaves and make something absolutely poetic with that. I say choreographers, like my friend Sharon and Guy in Tel Aviv, they are artisan. They take bodies, and when I've worked with them on ballet, they take bodies and making something, and this something give an emotion like cannot do an industry.
Now, you came out of theater and opera before you were in fashion. Yeah. So you moved out of worlds that are considered to be quite high art in a way, where fashion never really had that kind of respect in a way. I mean, really, I was always coming from outside fashion. I was struck by how fashion wasn't really taken that seriously. It always amazed me when I saw the people who worked in fashion, how incredible they were. And, you know, athletes were more respected than fashion designers. And I'm not saying that athletes don't deserve respect, but I do think fashion designers deserved more respect than they were getting. Do you feel that has changed? Do you feel that there is a sense now that fashion actually is a very elevated form of human creativity? I mean, you have spent years working with Rei Kawakubo, for example, and you know, the challenges that she poses to people are so far removed from what shirt am I going to put on this morning? You know, I mean, that I'm curious with you coming out of theater and opera, moving into fashion with the people you've worked with, what is your sense of fashion?
I mean, first, when people think about opera and theater, they think about drama, which is not the case. It's not about drama and dramatic, and it's about an emotional content, i.e. a theater, somebody wrote a text. This text is given to human beings. The author disappeared, give this text to human beings. Human beings are really alive on the stage and recreating. So it means the exchange with the people just seating. Again, human beings speaking with human beings. Dance is the same, opera is the same. Fashion show is the same. You have human beings in front of human beings. So for some designers who has, by essence, so much landscape in their head and so much poetry in their head and so much question in their work, to these people, then also, your work or my work is to say, how can I reinterpret it? What they expect, exactly like also Virgil told me, you say, I don't want a producer, I want a thinker. Do you want to think with me? That's what the first time I met him. And Ray is looking after me to say, what are you going to do? Show me what you're going to do with my work. And which is an absolutely amazing challenge.
He does that?
Yeah, that's the way it is. The way that show me what you do with my work. How did you understand it?
Good.
I mean, the briefing I got maybe one word. I mean, for the exhibition at the Met, when Adrian we were walking on the Place Vendôme, and from the show to the office, and Adrian Tamio Ray wanted to tell you that we are being asked to make an exhibition of her collection in the Metropolitan Museum in New York. And I look at her and I said, but you're not dead. You're not dead. So what you more the retrospective? And she'll say in Japanese, translate by Adrian, you're right. This is why we have to do something where there will be no shadow and where my creation and the people have to be at the same level. That's all. That's all.
That's all she told you.
That's all. But that's enough. When you know, that's enough. Then there is the Japanese architect, and she, I mean, I would think that whatever I've done come from her. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to communicate, and I didn't want the team to communicate. And all my young team hate me for that. Say, we need to communicate. And I say, maybe you're right, but I can't say I've designed the shows of, no, because definitely it would be for somebody else, the result will be different. So for me, it's more an interpretation. You are kind of, it's a creative filter. You see what I'm trying to achieve here, which is at the difference of when I work on the similarity on ballet. On the ballet, you have the choreograph. And then if I work on dramaturgy, lighting, and set with them, I will suggest an interpretation of their work. I will not talk about the movement. I will not talk about, no, because that's like I won't talk about fashion ever. But when a designer asks me, do you like the collection? It's just a horrible question to say, yeah, I don't know. And so there is for me a similarity of respect of the person who is the writer, less the director of the theater, but more the writer or the choreograph. You see the vision again, which is the most important thing. And there's some designer that I have absolutely open bar. I can do whatever I want, but whatever I want will never be whatever I want. It will always be whatever I think we can make a specificity of a brand. I remember with Acne, Johnny telling me, wow, this is so perfectly Acne. Do you know what Acne is? And I said to him, no, I don't know what Acne is, but I know what Acne is not. And he said, you're right, me too, I don't know what Acne is. And we were just doing free lesson of 45 minutes in an amphitheater about the history of art. That was a presentation of men that maybe you saw. It was like, but it's a way that the brand, the emotion, the specificity of a brand is going to the people who are coming to see. The second thing about theater and opera at that time was fashion was considered like something already commercial. It was theater and opera, dance was, the ultimate. So basically, when I began to work with Patrick, I was not part of the family
Patrick
no
Kelly.
more. Yeah, I was not part of the family of theater no more. I was part of your commerçant, you're a merchant. And I said, fuck you. I'm sorry, my English is rude, but I love this guy. And the second thing is, when you work on a theater play for creation, you take a year and a half, at the least. When you work on an opera for creation, 2 to 3 years. When you work on an exhibition in a museum, 5 to 6 years before you can do it. Or in a gallery, could be 3 or 4 years. Here, I've got absolutely with the team together. Against alone, I can't do anything. We have the opportunity to make installations 100 times a year. Minerai, for Comme des Garçons, I see the collection 48 hours before. So we have 48 hours to conceive everything. For others, 4 months. For Eddie Slimane at Dior, 5 months, 5 months and a half. We begin to work to the next show just after the show we just finished, 1 week after. So we had a long time to work on all the concept and all the process. So it means that the difference with art, so-called art, fashion first help on our side to go in a very more emotional way. There is less time to bring the candle burn. What else could I say about the feeling of a fashion designer was considered at that time like not very serious. Jean-Paul is not serious, and Helmut is not serious, and Andemelmester, she's not serious. Jean Colonna, what's a star? Hi, Jean. So not serious. So themselves, they were a bit, but art, but but music was important, was serious in a way. Today, it's not the same because it's a business.
But also, what has happened is you have the art world looking at the fashion world with this fascination, getting inspiration from fashion. You have movie directors. You have people like, Steven Spielberg once said to me that he could never do what Dolce & Gabbana do with a fashion show. He just couldn't do that. You have these people. I think there's been a huge attitudinal shift. Fashion became an industry, yes, and fashion, we have content and we have product and all these sort of very businessy kind of bottom line concepts. But at the same time, I think people finally realize, they look at Cristobal Balenciaga and they see sculpture that's as magnificent as Brancusi's, or they look at John Galliano and they see a show that's as incredible as a Diaghilev ballet. Or, you know, I
You
think
mean the one at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées?
at the Opera Garnier.
Not the one before, a long time
Did you
before.
do that? Did you, no,
I've worked with John until he went to Givenchy. Yeah,
Givenchy.
so we created the concept of the show themselves together before he went in Givenchy.
You know, when you were talking about how Reiko Okubo says she just wants the music exhibition, she wants the people to be on the same level as the clothes. Your brief is presumably a little more detailed than that with other people you've worked with. So what is the most inspirational way for you when you're working with people? You want the blank slate, or you want a little bit of what works best?
I mean, it's a meeting of human being for me, or my way of working. It's a meeting of human being, of respect. I think, again, in the manifesto, I was trying to say, I have the feeling that people, because their timing of concentration is smaller and smaller, don't listen. And I love to listen. Maybe, like you said to me, I'm a dinosaur, which is very nice, thank you.
No, I am as well. I am as well. We are.
Yeah, we are. So basically, I don't feel like that, but I feel that listening. I mean, you tell me red, or Han from Self-Portrait tell me red, or the designer of the two designers of Oscar de la Renta tell me red. That won't give me the same red, because they're all different. In the word RID will have a totally different landscape behind. So sometimes there is some houses who give us, this is what I want. And so this is what we're going to do. And some will say, this is what I want. What would you think about it? And some other will say, what are we doing? So we have a lot of different options, which is important, really important for me, is the human relationship. When I was working with Victoria Beckham, even Victoria, she's an amazing lady working with Joe McKenna in New York, and the work of concept with Ruth, and the work of how we can make a brand, how people can, let's say one example. She told me, I would like to have the feeling that people come and feel absolutely luxury. And I say, fine, we just have to make a very thick carpet. We put a very thick carpet, a really real one, wool carpet, made by Stepevi, Turkey, special color, powder pink, the whole space. People come, they come from the street, very hard in the street in New York. And then suddenly you walk on that carpet. You feel luxury. It looks to you like a hotel, like a Grand Hotel, it feels you like luxury. And everybody was saying, wow, a beautiful cushion, and this floor was enough to see the collection. Well lit for sure. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say details, but thought, again, what I call generosity. For who? How do they see that? How are they going to see it? How are they able to look at it? Like, oh yeah, they're third row. No, third row. At that time, 94, 93, there was no third row. We're standing people and everybody could see. So there's the fact of thinking, excuse me?
I always stood.
But you're tall, or you were fourth row.
You're trying to get me back for that dinosaur comment.
Yes.
No, but I'm curious, you said you've never talked about what you do. You said you will never do a book about what you do. And yet, when I hear you talking about the things you have done, when I think of a Comme des Garçons show and a very small handful of elements, there is a light and there is a floor that might be with boards, and then you realize somebody actually, then you become aware of the fact that somebody conceptualized this space. If the lights are swinging, like you're in a bar in the Yukon or something, or if the lights are, it feels like I said at the very beginning, the unsung heroes of fashion, the people who have created these impactful moments. Yeah, the designers make the clothes, but you weave this web around them, and yet you don't want people to know about that. I mean, that seems to be humility plus. Why is that?
I mean, there is no humility inside that. Maybe there is a very big ego also, you know. So I don't know. I don't look at through this window to analyze it. I think that when I made my own exhibition, when I make my own exhibition of lamps at Atelier Courbet in New York, or when I made the opening of the Grand Palais, or when I make installation in Versailles, all my work, personal work, out of fashion, that's my work. I communicate about it. I'm the only one who have been able to make an installation with a Henri Scarstruck musician, created music for Notre Dame de Paris, inside Notre Dame for Nuit Blanche in 2010. That's my work. I can speak about it. I'm the one at the beginning to the end. Fashion. To say I'm the one at the beginning to the end, to make a book, is for me a lie. It's for me. Other one can do whatever they want. For me, it's a lie, because I don't think this makes sense. What makes sense is the moment that people have filled in the room this, and afterwards through the film, which is also very important, but it's less important for me that people in that moment. And that moment is related, concentrated to link to a collectioner and to a designer. To link, not only to link, but also to give a message with no word, no concept, no explanation, no intellectual little birds, just the emotion of it. You see this show, when you have the lamps following the models on Comme des Garçons. Behind the lamps was François, by hand, like in a theater, just playing, and me with intercom telling, do this, stop, go down, go. That was this momentum that you still have in the head. Thank you. It means it works. You understand what I'm trying? And I don't think I have to be the one who done it. I thought that if designers wanted to have this kind of result or this kind of relationship, this kind of process of working, then they can find who made it. It's easy. Fashion world is small.
But do you like the fact that it just ends, it's over, it's entirely transient, it's a moment and it's gone? Do you like that?
Absolutely do. Absolutely do. I think there is something very strange to keep. It's like, I love the installation of Yoko Ono of the apple. Do you remember an apple? And that's life. And then the apple rotten, disappeared, over. You know, there is things you have to stay. I think the purpose here is to give, again, the emotional moment. You find your love. You cross a man or a lady, boom, you fall in love. This momentum is a momentum. You want to keep it in a box? No, it's going to evolve and transform. For me, it's actually the same, exactly the same. You go in during the show, you have, wow, a moment that you embrace a brand, you understand, you dive inside. Now, that's the goal. The goal is not, I've signed this film, my name is, no. That's another thing. That journalist was trying to find something else to speak about. Let's go behind the scene to see what happened. And then hairdresser, the dinosaur, hairdresser, makeup artist making business, good for them, fantastic. They are so talented. But then I don't feel like that.
Do you know one thing you've said in your manifesto is that for the future, after what the world is going through right now, you would like to see fashion become a relationship between not the aristocrat, the professional aristocracy, but between the creators and their audience, the public. You would like to see fashion open up. And so everything you did became like a performance for non-industry.
Some time
Maybe
ago,
human being.
Mr. Kenzo Takada in Japan, not with us, not with me, made huge shows, I think in Tokyo, and where people were paying to come in and other people were not paying to come in. And there was like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 people looking at it. I think that today we have a new tool, between bracket new, because it's not new at all, which is here what we are doing, virtual. For me, virtual is absolutely perfect to sell. A shop through virtuality, it's amazing. Advertising through virtuality, it's super clever. All the systems, all the algorithm exist to do it. But there's another thing, which, because we are not talking about soda or hamburgers, we are talking about something emotional, which is touching my skin, called fashion. So basically, for me, fashion has to be on bodies, on real body, and I have to see that in reality. The fact of fashion show. But before, because we need this journalist 6 months before who have to prepare the paper, and then we need to produce everything during 6 months before, then we need to sell to these shops who are going to buy 6 months before. Then these three aristocrats were the one invited. I do think today that these three aristocrats can work through the virtual, and that otherwise they don't know their job. And then for the one who are the consumers, which are the real people making the brand, because they buy it, because they go and they want to have this dress, they want to have whatever the sneakers, they want to have this, then they should be the one who participated and who are welcome. And there is ways to link both in a clever way. But that's another story when we're working on it, and I can't talk about it because that has to be released in September. Basta.
So this is the future.
Yes, in a way. The future is to not to say fashion show over. Really? We were talking just before, no, Frank. We are through a momentum today. It's as a revolution. Never happened in the world. People have to stay home. Time is going slow. Nobody knows what tomorrow will be. They don't know what the virus will be. Everybody's scared. Everybody should be responsible. Wearing your mask, please, ladies and gentlemen, make it all every time you go out, like I do. So I think this is also a moment to understand, again, I go back, the empathy and how to use the system, how to use the tool, and how to be not to be used by the tool. This tool is the virtual, but the show, I mean, I remember with Patrick Kelly, went to see Prince at Bercy. It's a concert of Prince. When I look at the video, I see a video, a very super clip, but to see the show. And then after, because I was with him to go to Les Bains and to see his private concert, he was here, I was there, people were there looking at him. That was this sentence that Galliano told me for the second show, the show at the Pin-Up Studio. Mm-hmm. That we said, I want the audience to smell the girl. I want the audience to smell the girl. So at the end, you have Evangelista going with a big dress on. Remember that?
Yes, big yellow dress.
Falling from the chairs. It's an amazing moment. But that's the fact. I am living an experience humanly, and people before have understood every little tool to be able to make you live even more. People are saying a virtual augmented. No, I say the reality has to be augmented.
Yeah.
And the virtual has to stay where it's good at, which is business.
Thierry, I'm going to get you to write a book. I mean, I'm going to write the book. I want all your stories. They're incredible. Thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been a real treat.
Thank you, Tim.
We finally had a conversation that wasn't kind of just backstage like that. So thank you very much for everything. Thank you for all.
You're welcome very much, Mr. Dinosaur.
Which one am I, though? You're the T-Rex. I'm the Brontosaurus. So when will I see you? Do we know even at this point?
You will see me if you come in Milan, you will see me in September in Milan, as we made a show for Itro last July in Milan,
Yeah.
a real one.
All right.
Or in Paris, yes, there is project going on with real shows.
All right.
And some are following this process, even real so in the city, to really understand that this exchange between people in the street which are not professional of the aristocrat fashion and the brand is crucial for the future of a brand.
Thank you. I'll see you then, I hope.
Hope so too.
Okay.
Take
Thank you very
care.
much.